Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Watson Michael from Ceylon Institute of English and Leadership. And as always, we're glad to have a special guest with us. He has been on our show a few times. Steve Silbiger, one of the best-selling authors of business books. Also, he's the author of the 10-Day MBA, an international bestseller which has sold over 500,000 copies worldwide and has been translated into at least a dozen languages. Steve, welcome back. How are you doing?
Well, I'm glad that you're having me back. Hello.
Such an honor to have you back.
Well, thank you. Thanks for bringing me back.
Such an honor, Steve. So, Steve, we notice many things going on these days. We recently noticed Silicon Valley Bank and Credit Suisse. There was a sort of a collapse thing. What do you think happened? Is it lack of governance or not managing the numbers properly?
Well, that's a good question. Those two are bank failures, but they happen for completely different reasons. The Silicon Valley Bank, they were very concentrated in one industry, which was high tech, and that was a risk. But what pushed it over the edge was that because their deposits were so available to their customers that within 48 hours, if I'm not mistaken, some $40 billion of their deposits left the bank. And obviously, like the way a bank usually works, is their money isn't sitting there. Their money is loaned out to companies, high-tech companies. And so in that case, it would be probably the concentration within that industry and their concentration of those loans, and the way that they allowed those customers to have so much money beyond the $250,000 that caused. So it was two things, governance as well as the concentration in that one industry. Credit Suisse was a whole nother can of worms, and that was a European bank. Their problem was they made a lot of bad loans and they needed to raise capital. And I believe a Saudi prince from Saudi Arabia said, "We're no longer going to fund your bank anymore." And then all of a sudden, a lot of deposits said, "Hey, we need to leave here quickly," similar to what happened in SVB, but for different reasons. And, that Swiss bank has been under intense regulatory scrutiny for decades. So it wasn't a lack of scrutiny on their part. It was just a matter of after SVB, people did not want to be adding more capital, investment capital to a bank at that point. It just happened right at the wrong time.
Wow.
And obviously that bank, the Swiss government made another bank buy it and make it sound, while at SVB, it was taken over by the United States federal government and its assets were sold and it ceased to exist anymore.
Wow. Interesting insights, actually.
The story can't be put into a short soundbite like they have on the news. You have to read what happened, and both of those bank failures were quite involved and different. So yet there was another bank that you didn't mention when SVB went bankrupt. Another bank, also called Signature Bank in New York, went bankrupt at the same time, but for the same reason. Many assets were taken out really quickly when people got frightened, and they couldn't cover those withdrawals, and the assets that they were invested in had become less valuable, and they were never meant to be sold at a fire sale. So that's kind of how it works. And all banks, quite honestly, work based off of your confidence in them. If you don't have confidence in your bank, you're going to take your money out. And so once that veil of confidence was removed, everybody started questioning, hey, is my bank sound? And
Yeah.
then money moves.
Wow. Super
Yeah.
insights, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So, how important is it for people to know finance, whether you're a student or whether you're a corporate executive, or it doesn't matter whatever job you do?
Well, remember the last conversation we had to talk about marketing and
Yeah.
be able to sell a product and
Yeah.
all that type of thing? There's a lot of numbers that are involved
Mm.
as discussed in marketing, but the finance are how the company actually functions. Accounting, of course, is how you keep track of the numbers,
Yeah.
but in finance, in this particular chapter, we're talking about how companies are valued,
Yeah.
how they sell stock, how they have bonds or they
Mm.
have equity. It's
Yeah.
basically the plumbing of a business that you must know.
Mm.
And even if you're working in a company in a financial area, or you're an investor, you're investing your money, you really need to know the fundamentals of finance. You know, I go through in a very step-by-step method covering what they taught us in business school.
Yeah.
So not only from the standpoint of a company that needs to borrow money and how does that work,
Mm.
to a company, how do they finance that borrowing, to how they can raise equity to finance the company in a different way,
Mm-hmm.
and then how do you value those investments? So
Yeah.
how do you value a bond? The basics of the time value of money is talked about in there. Also, how do you value dividends? How do you value a project? At the most basic level, if you're working in a company or running a company, you're going to be having projects and you need to make investments, maybe in equipment
Mm.
or whatever. This gives you the tools to basically to have the framework to evaluate a project, to be able to say, hey, is this project worthwhile? And then choose between projects. So it's the plumbing of the business. It is just as important as accounting, which tracks the numbers, and marketing to sell the product. You can't get away from it. And
Mm.
I can tell you from people that have no finance background, these
Yeah.
are creative types. They've
Mm.
read that chapter and they have a handle on finance.
Yeah.
There's a section and a lot of times people go, oh, it's finance, it's numbers, I can't handle
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Laid out very step by step, just the way they taught us in business school.
Yeah.
And there is 4 or 5 pages in that chapter that it's really detailed
Yeah.
and tedious, I would say. And I
Mm-hmm.
say at this point, if you want to read this section, I'm
Yeah.
telling you, this is difficult. You might need to read it a couple of times, these three or
Yeah.
four
Yeah.
pages, but it's not required. You could skip over those 3 pages and still get the understanding
Mm.
of, of finance. And just like even if you're in a company or you're investing, your savings, it's super important to know, even from that standpoint. Even if you are a marketer or you're a technologist or whatever,
Mm.
you're wanted to invest your own money personally, in the stock market or bonds or what have you. And this kind of outlines how that works. It's
Absolutely.
super important.
Yeah, because the 10-day MBA
Mhm.
teaches us step by step how to master the subjects. I mean, the subjects which you are given, step by step, it teaches us. So, the step by step module in finance also, it
Mhm.
helps people learn a lot of things. Um, yeah.
I mean, even because I'm working on the new edition, the fifth
Mm.
edition, I'm reading it.
Mm.
And this is 25 years ago when it was originally written, and it's been updated 4 other times. But the basics of what's being taught is the same. It's just having more update examples in some cases, but it's the same basics of how business works, how finance works, and it's a good read. It's easy. It's not written for like a textbook at all. It's written how, an impatient student wants to know, and just tell me the facts, give me some entertainment, and let's get on with it. So
Absolutely. So
there's plenty of, charts and explanation, so it's not dry at all.
yeah, and some
And
cartoon pictures as well.
yes,
Yeah,
and there's a cartoon as well. So there you
yeah,
go.
very true. So, Steve, we understand you're coming with the fifth edition, which will be
Yes,
released hopefully by next spring. So,
right.
what are the vital changes that we can expect from this?
Okay. Like it's kind of interesting. It's like I said, the basics are the same, but
Mm,
there's new areas like we were just talking about it. Cryptocurrency is discussed in there. The metaverse is discussed in there. Remote work, working remotely is in there. I've completely revamped the area in the back of the book. It's called a mini course in research and
mhm.
market intelligence,
Yeah,
completely rewritten, because what happened in 2012 is totally different than it is now. And I completely redid that. Also, as we talked about in the marketing discussion we had several weeks ago, uh, all about internet marketing. And that is what I do personally for my day job. And so there are whole sections that describe and make somebody literate in web marketing, the way it works, not only Amazon marketing, but
mm,
Google marketing, uh, web page marketing, all that type of social media, influencers, that type of thing. There's whole new sections related to that.
yeah,
And it's well worth it. And throughout the book,
yeah.
there's 50 of the 300 pages that are in here in the original book,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
50 pages of it are changed for sure.
Wow.
So I can tell you it was quite a job. So it's well worth it. But the current edition is still good. It's still
Mm,
delivering the punch.
very good.
And there you go.
Yeah, so absolutely. So, I mean, I would say even the current edition is pretty good because it just costs you about less than $30, if I'm not mistaken.
$15 on Amazon,
Right.
and it's doing very well. It continues to sell well every
Mhm.
month. It has a very high rating.
Yeah, it has a very high rating, absolutely. And if you want to gain some knowledge, like before doing an MBA, or if you cannot afford an MBA, but you're looking to learn some important theories, well, I would always say the 10-day MBA is the best book for that. And
And
you
it's stood the test of time. There's been other attempts to do
yeah,
what I've done,
yeah,
and those books have gone by the wayside. This one continues to deliver, and I'm very proud of it. You found it.
yeah,
It's all the world. It's been translated to 12 different languages, and so it really does deliver. It's not just a bunch of hype, because we don't
correct,
advertise. The only reason why it sells is word of mouth from people
correct.
like you and
Mm,
other readers who suggest that people read it. And there can't be any higher praise, and I'm humbled by it. You never know what happens when you create something in the world.
absolutely. So I would always recommend the 10-day MBA because even I tell my students, see, this is the best MBA book which you can ever buy. And if some people cannot afford it, even I said, just go ahead, get this because this book teaches international, I mean, like international level university theories. It covers. So that's something phenomenal, Steve. That's something phenomenal which you have done, and especially with this new work environment and with the new changes of AI, Web3 developing, so many things coming. When you have made drastic and vital changes, it will help a lot more people, and they would be benefited by
I I was invited by Google to use their new AI.
it. Okay.
It's called Bard.
Uh-huh.
Bard is their AI tool. And I wrote in there, is the 10-Day MBA a good book?
Yeah.
And wrote a couple of paragraphs talking about my book, which
Wow.
it was great. Happily Bard really liked my book, and
Mm-hmm.
it gleaned, the way the AI works. It goes throughout the internet and learns, and then it writes in English,
Mm-hmm.
in good English, in paragraph form, its opinion, like it's talking to you.
Yeah.
And yeah, it wrote about it highly. It described what it did. It described what readers have said about it. It was
Wow.
really, really cool.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's some news. Wow. All right.
yeah.
Great.
So, and I didn't know what it was going to say until I plugged it in. So I was really happy about that. Bard liked my book. So
Wow.
go figure.
Wow. Nice. Nice to hear that. So, Steve,
Okay. Yeah,
yeah,
I'll read what it said.
sure, sure.
Yeah, this is what Bard said. Yeah, I asked, is it a good book? The 10-Day is a good book. It's a comprehensive, well-written overview of the key concepts taught in top business schools. It's not a substitute for earning an MBA, but it can be valuable resource for anyone who wants to learn more about business. And so it's a little longer than that. I won't bore
Mhm.
you,
That's
but
fine.
the 10-Day MBA has been praised by critics for its accuracy and up-to-date information. There you go. If you are interested in learning more about business, the 10-Day MBA is a good place to start. So
Absolutely.
that's artificial intelligence,
Yeah, yeah. So it just reminds me, Steve, when you say when you just read that review. So you find some places where they offer advanced management programs and some certain management like 1 week, 2 weeks, or certain master classes. So if you can't afford it, don't worry. You have the 10-day MBA. Read it
Yeah.
and learn it. And if you're in another country, and don't worry about it, because I mean, I know it's not translated in all the languages, but at least a dozen languages it's translated. So definitely you're going to benefit from this book.
There are courses like out there where it's live courses, where you might spend a week, like you said, or a 2 week,
Yeah.
and they actually use the book as source material that they go through on the lives. So they it with live teaching. The book that they go home with is this book, which is
Hmm.
fun. Yeah.
It is. It is great. So, Steve, we appreciate you taking time and enlightening us about this book. Now, could you give a final message for all the people that who seek motivation?
Oh, for motivation, my gosh.
Yeah.
You know, like we talked about before, nothing is really easy. It does take effort, but it takes vision, and I would say it takes self-confidence to do what you feel like you want to do and go
Mm.
in the direction you want to go. And if there are naysayers, like I did when I first was about to writing the book,
Hmm.
oh, who would want to read this? Well,
Yeah.
it's here, it's now, it's happened. At work, I take new products,
Yeah.
make television commercials, and sell them on television and at retail, you
Hmm.
know, and you have to see a vision in the product and with the inventor,
Yeah.
and go through the whole process of creating the product, naming the product, delivering the
Mm.
product, making a commercial. Yeah, but it all starts at the beginning, and you just have to plow through and be confident in it. And, with my book, I think it delivers for you. I can't make you a motivated person, but I can definitely give you the tools to make your vision happen with it. If that's what you want to do, if you want to start a business, why make all the mistakes?
Yeah.
You can learn what mistakes not to do. You need to learn the questions to ask. You may not be an expert in finance or accounting, whatever it's going to be, or marketing, but you're going to be fluent to ask the right question. So your chance of success at first, all, but with knowledge and knowing, getting the on your team, you can be successful. And that's what it's all about.
Absolutely, 100% I agree with you. And I'm really grateful that I bought this book right at the department store a few years back. Right, that was during a break. We went. I don't think it was a break. We just went out during office hours and like,
Right.
bang, we bought the book. So great. So for all those watching, we'll be putting Steve's the 10-day MBA link for the Facebook page as well. So please follow that. You can find some interesting tips.
Yeah. Just search 10-day on Facebook, just search 10-day MBA. It will come up and you can like it and then follow it. I post a lot of very interesting articles in there once a week or what have you, things that I read and I find are interesting. It might be about artificial intelligence. It might be about MBA education. It might be something else, but it's not junk. It's not trying to sell you the book. It's trying to give you some interesting facts to think about.
Absolutely. So Steve, thanks for
Always a
taking
pleasure.
time and doing this podcast with us.
All righty. Well, take care. And thank you to all your students that have chimed in the past. And I hope to hear from them in the future.
Thanks, Steve. Take care.
All right. Take care.